Hey everybody, in this video I'm going to be talking about how to gain lean mass and do healthy weight gain. It's a problem that we see a lot of times in adolescent and young adult males, and then female athletes a lot of times have difficulty gaining weight because of the volume of their training load. And believe it or not, there is a fairly decent percentage of adults and adolescents who have this issue. While the majority have issues losing weight, again, we have a good chunk of people that have a very difficult time putting on mass. Okay, and it's really important to understand that what we're talking about here in this video is not fat mass. We're talking about lean mass, so we're talking about primarily muscle tissue. Generally, the people that have the hardest time gaining weight are people that we refer to as hard gainers, and they're people that no matter what they do, they can eat as much food as they want, they can exercise as much as they want, they just will not gain weight. And what happens is when they eat more food, they tend to be fidgety and have more energy, and they tend to expel more calories or expend more calories, even if they're not exercising. So that's where the difficulty is with hard gainers. And then some people just are naturally thin and have trouble gaining weight, or they don't have the right tools, or they don't know how to eat and exercise properly to get them the goals they want. But most people think, and this is generally from the adolescent community, but I even see it in some young adults, the general thinking is, oh, well, if I just eat whatever I want, whenever I want it, and I exercise less, I'll be putting out and expending less calories, but I'll be taking more in, and I'll gain weight. The problem with that is that you tend to gain fat mass, and a lot of times that might be the only thing you gain is fat mass. So we have to really talk about how to do this in a way that's going to keep your fat mass either the same or maybe make it go up just a little bit but not into the unhealthy range, and also how to do it so that you're still keeping up your training load and still able to maintain good performance if you're an athlete. Okay, one of the biggest factors as far as difficult weight gain is genetics. For instance, if you're a male and the males were all your size when they were your age, you probably are genetically a thin person, and you're probably never going to be as big as other people are who have better genetics, who might have more muscle fibers than you. So that's going to be the limiting factor in your weight gain process. But with proper nutrition, proper exercise, you can increase your muscle mass, and you can reach at least part of your weight gain goal. And generally also too, as you age, your body becomes more mature, you reach muscle maturity, and you'll find it easier to put on mass as you get older. There's been a couple studies done on healthy weight gain. One was done so that the subjects should, in theory, gain 11 pounds. But over the course of the study, most of the average weight gain was only about 6 pounds. Most of the subjects gained anywhere between 4 and 6 pounds. Some didn't gain any weight at all. So as you can see, there are times when, if you overfeed yourself, you may just not gain any weight. There was another study that was done on 200 prisoners, and they actually not only were overfed, but they were also less active. They cut back their activity level. And even those, only 20 reached their full weight goal. And some of those people had family histories of chronic disease, and that's why they put on the weight. That's why they reached their full goal weight. So it is a serious issue, and it is very difficult to gain muscle mass for those who are hard gainers. So we're going to talk now about the macronutrients that are needed for healthy weight gain and muscle mass, putting on muscle mass, and the two main macronutrients you're really going to want to focus on are protein and carbohydrates. As far as protein is concerned, we're looking at about a 1.5 to 2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. That is enough to gain muscle mass, as long as all the other parameters are followed. If you're eating more than that, what's going to happen is a lot of that protein is going to be used for energy, which is kind of a waste, or nitrogen urea. It can be converted to fat. Probably going to be a very unlikely scenario for someone who is a hard gainer, because they're just not going to gain the weight like normal people do. Carbohydrates are going to ensure that the muscle has enough glycogen in it, so it's going to retain water more. And it's also going to spare the protein during intense muscular training workouts, and what that does is it allows the protein to focus mostly on repair and rebuilding. Okay, so it prevents protein from getting wasted as energy. The bottom line, though, is really extra calories. You do have to have a caloric um, profit or a caloric increase in order to really see healthy weight gain. If you have a caloric deficit or if you're just matching your calories, it's not going to happen. You're not going to put on that mass. Okay, so really, and like we said, a pound of muscle has 2,500 calories in it. So that means you need to be eating at least 2,500 calories more per week if you want to gain at least 1 pound of muscle, in theory, per week. Okay, now a lot of that will probably get burnt off as energy, and some of that also is going to get burnt off because the person who's eating more is going to have more energy and they're going to push it harder in the gym. But to a certain point, you're going to start putting on some muscle mass. Protein supplementation is really, really popular with the hard gainer community, and there are two concerns we have with that. One is that the person can fill up by using supplements, and what happens is then they tend to eat less calories because they're not as hungry. That is a serious issue, and so we want to make sure that if they're doing protein powders, that they're still eating real food and they're still meeting their calorie amounts for the end of the day. Some protein powders are laced with illegal substances, so in that case, you really do have to be careful. If you're an athlete, you don't want to be using a protein supplement and then find out later when you go to get tested that you are going to fail because of illegal substances. The benefit that protein powders do have is that if someone really, really, really has difficulty taking in enough calories, so let's say they're supposed to eat 3,000 and they're eating about 2,400 and they just cannot get over 2,400 because the food that they're eating is filling them up. Protein powders can kind of be that bridge, can kind of bridge the gap between whatever calorie deficit you have, and it'll ensure that they get enough calories. So that's the positive with that. So now we're going to go over kind of 6 keys to making healthy weight gain and increasing muscle mass. One is that you need to eat a consistent 3 meals a day. Okay, these are full meals; these are not snacks, and they're going to have to be in larger portions than most people are going to eat. If you skip meals and then eat a bunch of calories at the end of the day to kind of make up for that lost calories, you're not going to see the same result. You might actually end up seeing some fat accruing on the person as opposed to muscle mass. So that is not going to work, and that's what most athletes do. They tend to skip meals because they don't have enough time, and then they end up making up for it with 1 or 2 meals out of the day, but they don't see the same kind of mass gain that the ones who eat 3 consistent meals a day. And one of those really important meals is breakfast. If you're not eating breakfast, you are missing out on a huge chunk of calories. And so it's really important to start off with a good, large breakfast. You have to increase your portion sizes because you need more calories. The regular portion sizes are not going to cut it, okay? For instance, if you're going to have a sandwich and water for lunch, have 2 sandwiches, a salad, and a glass of milk or juice instead, and that will increase the amount of calories just by increasing your portion sizes. You can also eat an extra snack before bed. Sleep is a time when your body's fasting, and so your muscle can get wasted to help fuel your body. And so by eating a snack right before bed, you kind of prevent that muscle waste, that protein wasting, and your body uses the food you've eaten for energy. A midday snack is also okay as long as it doesn't cause you to feel full and not eat a meal. Okay. You need to select calorie and nutrient-dense foods. Okay, some foods just have more calories than others, and those are the ones you have to pick. The best person to talk to about that would be a dietitian, because they can tell you what foods those are, and which ones you should be eating, and which ones you can swap out, so that you make sure that each meal you're eating higher calorie foods. Like for instance, corn has more calories than broccoli, so if you're going to pick a vegetable to have as a side, corn might be a better choice because it already has more calories. Drinking juice and milk, normally we would not recommend, because for those looking to lose weight, that's extra calories and extra sugar, and what will end up happening is the person won't lose weight. But for someone who's trying to gain weight, it's a very, very effective tool to add calories to their daily intake. Okay, and then the last thing is that when you're exercising, you need to focus your training on resistance strength training and hypertrophy training. Okay, it can be either one of those. It can be muscular endurance training, strength training, or hypertrophy training. But hypertrophy training is going to have probably the greatest amount of growth. Strength training will also have a decent amount of muscle growth. But if you're not focusing on that in the gym, then your body is not going to be able to use those calories to build your muscle, because your muscle tissue is not damaged. It is important to keep up some cardio just to keep your heart healthy, but for these types of people, we have to go the minimum amount. If we go more than the minimum amount, it could cut into their strength and mass gains. So a caution that we have to remember as professionals or as amateurs who are looking to gain more mass is that when you're having an adolescent that's eating more calories, this can lead to them becoming an obese adult because as they get older, they're most likely going to become less active. But they're still going to eat the same way, and so that obviously is going to create a surplus of calories, and it's now going to get turned into fat mass, and we don't want that to happen. It's important to understand that as somebody gets older, they might have to decrease the amount of calories they eat because their metabolism is going to slow down naturally. So now it won't take as many calories to see the same sort of training effects that it took when they were younger. And then the last thing to keep in mind is that by decreasing the amount of exercise, then the added calories you're taking in are most likely going to be converted to fat. So keeping active and making sure that your workouts are very consistent and they are thorough is going to be important to making sure that the mass gains are muscle and not fat. So that concludes this video. I hope it's helpful. Again, I said this is a very common issue, especially in adolescent and young men. And so I hope that this helps you if this is your goal in training. I hope that this kind of helps you to kind of see what might need to be changed or altered. And I hope it gives you good information. If you have any questions, feel free to submit a form through my website. That's bfitfresno.com, or you can message my Facebook page, and I'd be more than happy to answer any questions you might have. So until the next time, I will talk to you later. Bye.